She snapped, "We should break up." I replied, "I agree." Then I started packing her stuff. When she realized I wasn't joking, she panicked. The next day, her mom called, "Hey, Reddit." My girlfriend tried to isolate me from everyone. When she couldn't, she threatened to leave, so I packed her stuff. She panicked, claimed she was joking, but I wasn't. Then she and her friends spread lies about me and tried to ruin my reputation. It backfired. Here's what went down. This whole nightmare started when I, 24 male, was fresh out of college with an animation degree. Met Kylie at my buddy Jason's house party. I'm standing in the kitchen with a Bud Light, trying to avoid small talk when this brunette walks up and starts laughing at my boring stories about rendering deadlines and dealing with clients who think make it more dynamic counts as legitimate creative direction. Kylie had this whole girl next door thing going. 21. Worked part-time at some bougie boutique and treated my awkward programmer humor like I was delivering a David Chappelle special. Girl was packing my lunch with cute notes and remembering random shit I mentioned once, like how I wanted to get back into guitar. The first few months were honestly perfect. Too perfect. Like when a used car dealer swears that Camry with 200,000 miles was only driven by a little old lady to church. My friend Victor saw through it from day one. Dude's got a PhD in spotting crazy and wasn't subtle about his concerns. He'd make these pointed comments about how I seemed different lately, how I wasn't hanging out as much. "Bro, something's off about her," Victor told me during one of our increasingly rare lunch breaks at work. "She laughs too hard at everything you say. Real people don't find her dad jokes that funny." I brush him off like an idiot. "Maybe she just gets my sense of humor. Or maybe she's playing a character," he said, stirring his coffee like he was reading tea leaves. "Watch how she acts when she thinks you're not paying attention." I'd adopted my dog, Buster, about 6 months before meeting Kylie, a German Shepherd mix from the shelter who was loyal as hell and had better judgment about people than I did. Buster tolerated Kylie, but never warmed up to her the way he did with everyone else. He would watch her with this cautious look, not aggressive, just waiting for her to do something that would prove his instincts right. Whenever she tried to pet him, he'd accept it, but immediately come to me afterward, like he was checking if everything was okay. She'd make comments about how Buster was antisocial and maybe needed training. The audacity of criticizing my rescue dog, who'd never shown aggression to anyone, was incredible, but I was too whipped to see it for what it was, testing boundaries. The ex was incredible, though, the kind that makes you stupid and willing to ignore obvious problems. She had this way of making me feel like the only guy who'd ever understood her, like she'd been waiting her whole life for some awkward programmer to sweep her off her feet. 3 months in, her stuff started migrating to my place, like she was running a covert operation. First a toothbrush, then clothes, then my entire bathroom counter looked like a Sephora explosion. My shower went from having 1 bottle of 3 in 1 to looking like a chemistry lab. I was too effing whipped to notice I was being love-bombed harder than Dresden in 1945. Every morning, there'd be something new. Her coffee mug next to mine. Her shoes by the door. Her laptop charger plugged in where mine used to be. Death by 1,000 accommodations. The first crack in the facade came during month 3. We're at Target when some girl from her high school recognized her and asked about her ex Brad. Kylie's whole vibe shifted instantly, and she spun this story about how Brad had anger issues and couldn't handle a strong woman. The girl looked confused and mentioned something about Brad being a pretty chill guy who was engaged now. Kylie's face went cold for just a second before switching back to fake cheerful. "Oh, people change. Good for him." Later, she told me he was just some guy with commitment problems, but the way she rewrote history on the spot should have been a massive red flag. But I was young, dumb, and getting regular action. Month 4 was when the psychological warfare started. Nothing dramatic enough to trigger alarm bells, just little comments that sounded reasonable but felt like paper cuts. It started with my friends. Kylie would mention how Victor seemed negative and how he was always complaining about something. She wasn't technically wrong. Victor had warned me about studio politics when I was excited about getting more creative control on projects. But she reframed his realistic advice as undermining my dreams. "He's so pessimistic," she'd say while we're eating dinner. Like, can't he just be happy for you? Why does he always have to find the downside? He's just looking out for me. That's what friends do. But babe, you're always stressed after talking to him. I just think you deserve people who lift you up, not bring you down. The manipulation was subtle, but effective. She wasn't saying, "Don't be friends with Victor." She was just concerned about my emotional well-being. What caring girlfriend, right? Then she moved on to my family. My mom called maybe twice a week to check in, but Kylie made it sound like I was still attached to the umbilical cord. She'd suggest I needed to establish boundaries because I was an adult with my own life. Now, these conversations always happened after mom called. Kylie would be sweet during the actual call, making coffee and giving me space. But afterward, don't you think it's weird how she needs to know what you're doing all the time? The gym comments came next. My 15-minute drive was suddenly this massive inconvenience that kept me from spending quality time with her. She wanted us to get a Peloton and do couples yoga instead. "We could work out together," she'd suggest, rubbing my shoulders after I'd come home from lifting. I found this cute couples workout routine on Pinterest. We'd actually see each other instead of you disappearing for 2 hours. It's not disappearing. It's the gym. You know where I am. I know, but wouldn't it be nice to share that part of your life with me? Every suggestion sounded reasonable in isolation, but together they were slowly cutting off every part of my life that didn't include her. The controlling behavior ramped up slower than Windows 95 booting up. Started with wanting my schedule constantly, then questioning why work meetings ran late, then getting upset if I didn't text back within 10 minutes during business hours. I just worry when I don't hear from you, she'd explain. What if something happened? How would I know? The concerned trolling was next level. Frame every invasion of privacy as caring about my safety. Question every delayed response as evidence I didn't care about her feelings. Work started noticing too. My boss, David, called me into his office after I'd left early 3 times in 2 weeks because Kylie had emergencies that required my immediate attention. Is everything okay at home? David asked, clearly uncomfortable with the personal conversation. You seem distracted lately. Just relationship stuff? Nothing major. Look, I'm not trying to get in your business, but you've been getting phone calls during client meetings. That's not like you. He was right. Kylie had started calling during work hours because she was lonely or had seen something that reminded her of me. Missing her calls would result in increasingly frantic texts about why I was ignoring her. But the real mind was her emotional thermostat. Girl could go from sweet and loving to hysterical tears faster than a Ferrari hitting the gas. Everything was always my fault somehow. Didn't want to skip basketball with the guys. I was prioritizing sports over our relationship. Couldn't afford the $200 per person restaurant she saw on Instagram. I was financially controlling her dreams. Suggested she get full-time work. I was unsupportive of her entrepreneurial journey. Her entrepreneurial journey, by the way, was selling essential oils to girls from high school who were too polite to block her MLM pitches. The fights all followed the same pattern. Kylie would manufacture some crisis, escalate it to relationship-ending levels, then make me grovel for forgiveness while promising to do better. She'd twist everything I said like a pretzel and threaten to leave if I didn't apologize for whatever made-up crime I'd committed. And like an idiot, I'd panic and apologize every time because I thought this was normal relationship drama instead of psychological terrorism with great tits. Victor kept dropping truth bombs about how I'd stopped going to poker nights and barely saw my family anymore. But I didn't want to hear it. When's the last time we hung out without you checking your phone every 5 minutes? He asked during one of our rare solo dinners. I don't do that, dude. You've looked at your phone 12 times since we sat down, and we've been here for 20 minutes. Each individual thing seemed small, but together they were creating a prison made of guilt trips and emotional blackmail. The breaking point was coming, though. Month 8 was when Kylie's mask finally slipped. Her best friend, Ashley, was the main instigator, one of those girls who read one article about narcissistic abuse and suddenly became an expert on everyone else's relationships. Ashley had been through 4 relationships in 2 years, all ending with restraining orders or police calls. But somehow she was qualified to analyze my controlling behavior. Every time she came over, she'd make these passive-aggressive comments about men who don't appreciate what they have while chain smoking on my balcony and complaining about her latest dating disaster. Ashley thinks you don't value me enough, Kylie mentioned one evening. Like her friend's opinion was biblical wisdom. She says, guys who really love their girlfriends make them feel like priorities. I do make you a priority, but not the priority. There's a difference. Ashley's influence was toxic as hell. She'd fill Kylie's head with this adversarial relationship advice where everything was a test. I was failing. It all came to a head on what should have been a chill Saturday afternoon. We're watching Netflix when Kylie pauses mid-episode and hits me with those 4 words. We need to talk. Ashley and her had been discussing our relationship, and apparently they decided Victor was toxic and undermining us. Ashley thinks Victor is poison, Kylie said, crossing her arms like she was about to deliver a verdict. And honestly, I agree. He's always making little comments, trying to turn you against me. Victor's been my friend since college. He's allowed to have opinions. Not about our relationship, Jake. He doesn't know what we have. But you always take his side over mine. His side? There are no sides here, Kylie. That's not how friendships work. See, you're doing it again. Her voice was getting the shrill quality that made Buster's ears flatten. You care more about what Victor thinks than what I need from you. What exactly do you need from me? That's when she dropped the bomb. You need to choose. Me or him. I'm not sharing you anymore. Something clicked in my brain, like a circuit breaker, finally flipping. This wasn't love. This was ownership. That's not how this works, I said, keeping my voice completely flat. Yes, it is. If you love me, you'll choose me. That's what people do in real relationships. No, Kylie, that's what people do in hostage situations. Her face twisted like I just slapped her. You're being cruel. I'm asking for basic loyalty from my boyfriend. You're asking me to cut off my best friend because your ego can't handle him existing. That's not loyalty. That's control. I'm not controlling. I just want to be your priority. You want to be my only option. There's a difference. She started crying. Those manipulative tears that had worked on me for months. How can you be so cold? Don't you love me at all? I thought I did. Turns out I love the version of you that didn't make ultimatums. Fine, she screamed, jumping up from the couch. If that's how you feel, then we should break up. We're done. Don't come crawling back when you realize what you lost. I stood up slowly, completely calm. I agree. Thanks for making this easy. The look on her face was priceless. Like someone had just explained that Santa wasn't real and neither was her victim complex. Wait, what? You said we're done. I'm accepting your decision like an adult. I started packing her stuff while she stood there with her mouth hanging open. Girl expected me to break, to chase her, to prove my love through grand gestures and groveling. Instead, I grabbed a garbage bag and efficiently collected her bathroom products. You can't just. You're supposed to fight for us. Fight for what? The privilege of walking on eggshells in my own apartment. But I love you. No, you love controlling me. Big difference. The backpedaling was immediate and pathetic. I didn't mean it. I was upset. You can't throw away 8 months over one fight. This isn't one fight, Kylie. This is you showing me exactly who you are when you don't get your way. I'll compromise. Victor can come around sometimes. How generous of you to allow me to see my best friend sometimes. She was fully spiraling now, switching between tears and rage like a broken emotional thermostat. You're being a complete a-hole. This isn't you. Actually, this is exactly me when someone threatens to leave unless I cut off my friends. Then she tried to pull the most ridiculous power move I've ever witnessed. Fine. I'm taking Buster with me. I've been taking care of him more than you anyway. I actually laughed out loud. You're taking my dog? The dog I adopted 6 months before I met you? The dog that literally hides when you try to pet him. I feed him every day. You fed him maybe 5 times total, and only when I specifically asked you to. He comes back stressed every time you walk him because you're too busy taking selfies to pay attention. He loves me. Buster, come here, I called. My loyal boy looked at her, looked at me, then trotted over and sat down by my feet like he was casting his vote. Even my dog has better judgment than I gave him credit for, I said, scratching behind his ears. The rest was just noise, crying, threats, more manipulation attempts. But I was done engaging, packed her shit, got her out, and finally understood what peace felt like. She called Ashley mid-breakdown for backup, putting her on speaker so they could tag team the emotional manipulation like some twisted version of WWE. Jake, this is exactly what I told Kylie would happen. Ashley chimed in with maximum smugness. You're showing your true colors now. Ashley, you've been single longer than the Sahara's been dry, and you're giving relationship advice. That's like taking driving lessons from someone who crashes into parked cars. Don't you dare talk to my friend like that. Your friend just tried to steal my dog after breaking up with me. Maybe focus on getting her some therapy instead of enabling her victim complex. It took 3 hours of crying and what I can only describe as an emotional toddler tantrum before she finally left with Ashley shooting me dirty looks like I was history's greatest monster. That night, drinking with Victor and playing games without someone analyzing every interaction for hidden meaning, I realized how much of myself I'd lost. I'd stopped doing things I enjoyed, stopped seeing people I cared about, and started walking on eggshells in my own apartment. But Kylie wasn't done with her villain arc yet. This shit was just getting started. Thinking the worst was over after packing her shit was like thinking the Titanic just bumped into a pool noodle. Within 24 hours, Kylie and Ashley launched a character assassination campaign that would have made political operatives proud. They went straight to social media because nothing says mature adult like airing a relationship drama on Instagram. Kylie's first post was a masterpiece of passive-aggressive victim playing. She posted about someone throwing away years of love for toxic friends, complete with hashtags about narcissistic abuse and toxic men. Years of love. We dated 8 months. But according to Kylie's creative timeline, we've been together since the Renaissance. The post got 73 likes and 41 comments, mostly from girls who didn't know me, but were ready to support their queen with fire emojis and you deserve better mantras. The echo chamber was deafening. Ashley's Facebook novel was even better. She wrote this long-ass rant about watching her best friend get emotionally abused by someone who pretends to be a good guy. The comments became a feeding frenzy of their friends who didn't know me from Adam, all chiming in with, you deserve better, queen, and other echo chamber bullshit. They never said my name directly, just enough details that anyone who knew us would know exactly who they were talking about. But they didn't stop at social media virtue signaling. These psychos went full scorched earth like they were reenacting Sherman's March to the Sea. Ashley started spreading rumors that I was psychologically abusive and had anger issues. She told people I'd threatened Kylie and was stalking her. She was claiming to be an expert on abuse while actively engaging in harassment. The stories got more elaborate with each telling. Apparently, I'd screamed at Kylie in public, isolated her from friends, and had a history of love-bombing women. The fact that she'd literally tried to isolate me from my friends was conveniently forgotten in her victim narrative. 3 days after the breakup, Kylie showed up at my animation studio like some deranged stalker from a Lifetime movie. She told reception she was my girlfriend and needed to give me something urgently. Our receptionist, Beth, called me down, looking uncomfortable. Your ex is here. Says it's important. I pulled out my phone and started recording the whole pathetic display while explaining to security that my ex was having trouble with the concept of it's over. I'm not here to cause trouble, she said, noticing the phone. I just miss you so much. We broke up. You need to leave. But I love you. Doesn't that mean anything? Security escorted her out while she kept up the wounded victim act. My coworker spent the rest of the day giving me weird looks like I'd kicked a puppy instead of ending a toxic relationship. The social media campaign escalated when they started naming me directly. Ashley posted detailed stories about Jake M. and his pattern of emotional abuse. According to her creative writing exercise, I controlled her finances and threatened to destroy her life. None of it happened, but creative minds create creative lies. The post got shared 50 times faster than a celebrity death hoax. My DMs filled up with messages from random girls telling me I was trash, and they hoped I got what I deserved. My Instagram comments became a battlefield. Girls I'd never met were posting things like abuser and women deserve better, under photos of me and Buster hiking. Even my food pics weren't safe from the crusade. But wait, it gets better. Kylie's mom, Pamela, decided to join the party like an unwanted relative at Thanksgiving. She called my mom directly, claiming I destroyed her daughter and needed to pay for my emotional abuse. My mom shut that shit down immediately. She told Pamela that if her daughter couldn't handle being broken up with like an adult, that was a her problem, not a him problem. My son is not responsible for your daughter's emotional regulation, Mom said. She'd never liked Kylie anyway. Pamela wasn't done, though. She started calling my studio and posting in local Facebook groups about the predatory young man targeting vulnerable girls. David called me into his office again, this time looking seriously concerned. I'm getting phone calls about you being some kind of abuser. What the hell is going on? I explained the whole situation, showed him the social media posts and text evidence. He looked relieved, but pissed. This is affecting our business. I've got clients asking questions. The harassment campaign was so coordinated, it felt like psychological warfare. They'd taken turns posting on different platforms, timing their attacks for maximum impact. Kylie would post something emotional on Instagram. Ashley would share it with commentary on Facebook, and random friends would amplify it on Twitter, because apparently ending a toxic relationship now makes you a predator. The harassment was so over the top that even some mutual friends started seeing through the bullshit. Jason called me after seeing Ashley's latest rant. Dude, this is insane. The Kylie I met was sweet, but she wasn't exactly stable. And Ashley's been stirring up drama since high school. That's when I realized this wasn't going to blow over. These people were on a mission, and they weren't going to stop until someone made them. Time to bring in the professionals. After a week of watching these lunatics try to destroy my reputation, I decided it was time to fight fire with napalm. I documented everything like I was building a case for the Supreme Court. Screenshots of posts accusing me of specific crimes, messages to my studio, Pamela's neighborhood slander campaign, and Ashley's novel-length rants about my abusive patterns. Victor helped me organize the evidence like we were preparing for digital warfare. This is textbook defamation, he said, scrolling through Ashley's Facebook timeline. They're not even trying to hide it. The hardest part was watching my professional reputation take hits. David started getting calls from potential clients who'd seen the social media campaign. 2 projects got postponed indefinitely after clients Googled my name and found Ashley's creative writing exercises. Found a lawyer through my company's legal benefits. Jennifer was a shark in a business suit who specialized in defamation cases and had a Yelp page full of reviews from people who'd learned not to screw with her clients. She took one look at the evidence and practically started salivating. This is textbook defamation. False statements presented as fact, published to third parties, causing damage to your reputation. They've basically wrapped a lawsuit for us. We spent 2 hours going through every post, comment, and message. Jennifer took notes like she was planning a military operation, occasionally stopping to shake her head at their stupidity. This Ashley girl is particularly impressive, she said, reading one of the longer rants. She's managed to commit libel, harassment, and conspiracy in a single Facebook post. That takes talent. The cease and desist letters went out like legal hand grenades. The responses were more entertaining than Netflix. Ashley's reply came through Daddy's lawyer, claiming she was just expressing opinions about abuse she'd witnessed firsthand. Translation: we don't understand the difference between opinion and false accusations. And we think the First Amendment is a magic shield. The letter was hilarious. Ashley claimed she had First Amendment rights to share her experiences and was protecting other women from predators. Her lawyer clearly hadn't looked at the evidence before sending that masterpiece. Kylie's response was even better. You can't sue me for telling the truth. This just proves how controlling you are. Even after getting served with legal papers, this witch still couldn't admit she was wrong. Pamela doubled down. She called Jennifer's office, screaming about how I was victimizing her daughter twice and threatening to countersue for harassment. Let me get this straight, Jennifer said after listening to the voicemail. She's threatening to sue us for suing them for lying about you. That's like calling the cops on someone for calling the cops on you. We filed seeking $50,000 each plus legal fees. The moment those papers got served, reality hit them like a freight train carrying consequences. Kylie called me 15 times in one day. I didn't answer, but the voicemails were pure desperation. Suddenly, she wanted to talk like adults and was begging me not to ruin her life over a stupid breakup. The voicemails started apologetic and escalated to angry threats. Then back to begging. Ashley's social media went private immediately. Pamela tried calling my mom to beg her to make me drop this nonsense because it was just a misunderstanding between kids. My mom's response was perfect. Maybe you should have raised your daughter to handle rejection like an adult instead of enabling her victim complex. Funny how it became a misunderstanding once lawyers got involved. During depositions, their stories fell apart like a house of cards in a windstorm. Ashley claimed she was protecting women from a dangerous predator. Kylie broke down and admitted she was hurt and wanted to hurt me back. Pamela couldn't explain why her terrified daughter had spent 3 weeks calling and texting me to get back together. Ashley's deposition was particularly entertaining. Jennifer asked her to define emotional abuse, and Ashley gave this textbook definition she'd clearly memorized from Google. Then Jennifer asked for specific examples of my abusive behavior. He isolated her from her friends, Ashley said confidently. Which friends specifically? Well, He didn't like when we hung out. Did he forbid her from seeing you? Not exactly, but he would get upset. Can you provide evidence of him getting upset about their friendship? He seemed annoyed sometimes. It went on like that for 2 hours. She couldn't provide a single concrete example of actual abuse, just hurt feelings and relationship conflicts she'd blown up into criminal behavior. Meanwhile, my life was getting better. Work at the studio was going well. I was hitting the gym without someone monitoring my activities. And I was sleeping better than I had in months. Buster was happier too. No more stressed out energy from someone who clearly didn't belong in our space. But these people weren't done learning about consequences yet. 6 months later, the lawsuit concluded with everything I could have hoped for. Kylie settled for $35,000 plus a written apology that had to be posted on all her social media for 30 days. She had to publicly admit that her claims about me being abusive, controlling, or threatening were completely untrue and made out of anger. Reading that post got 0 likes and hundreds of comments calling her out was better than porn. The comments were savage. Girls who'd supported her during the campaign started asking why she'd lied. Friends from high school called her out for crying wolf about abuse. Even Ashley stayed quiet, probably on advice from her lawyer. Ashley got hit harder, $45,000 plus legal fees, because she was the main architect of the whole campaign and doubled down when confronted. Her settlement included never mentioning me online or to mutual acquaintances again. The best part was watching Ashley's online presence completely disappear. She went from posting daily rants about feminism and toxic masculinity to complete radio silence. Her LinkedIn went private, her Twitter got deleted, and her Facebook became a ghost town. Pamela decided to fight it all the way to trial like some kind of legal donut. During her deposition, she claimed I was a manipulative predator who had traumatized her daughter. Problem was we had evidence. Text messages of Kylie begging me to take her back for weeks. Screenshots of her admitting to friends she'd made up stories because she was hurt. Phone records showing Pamela had called my animation studio 17 times in 3 days. The judge was not impressed. When Pamela started ranting about the legal system protecting abusers, the judge cut her off and laid down some truth about how the evidence showed I was the one being harassed. Mrs. Williams, your daughter, ended the relationship herself, then spent weeks trying to reconcile. The defendant accepted her decision and moved on. Your response was to launch a public harassment campaign based on information you now admit you didn't verify. Pamela got slammed with the full $50,000 plus my legal fees, $73,000 total. The judge also issued a public statement that the claims against me were unfounded and malicious. Watching their lives implode was poetry in motion. Ashley lost her job when her nonprofit employer found out about the lawsuit. She had to move back with her parents and delete all social media. The nonprofit sent out an internal memo about social media conduct and background checks. Ashley went from self-righteous activist to cautionary tale in 6 months. Pamela got kicked out of her book club for being a drama starter. Her husband made her take anger management classes. Kylie had to move back home and get a real job to pay the settlement. Her Instagram went from lifestyle blogger wannabe to radio silence. The boutique fired her when customers recognized her from the lawsuit drama. She went from posting daily outfit pics and motivational quotes to absolutely nothing. Her follower count dropped from 3,000 to around 200, mostly family and bots. Me, I was thriving. Used some settlement money for a vacation to Japan with Victor. Posted pictures of us exploring Tokyo while these psychos dealt with consequences. The trip was exactly what I needed. 2 weeks of incredible food, beautiful temples, and no drama whatsoever. Started dating again, too. Met Abby, a nurse who was mature, independent, and had her own life. When I told her about the Kylie situation on our 3rd date, her response was perfect. Sounds like you dodged a bullet. Want dessert? She was everything Kylie wasn't. She had her own apartment, her own friends, her own hobbies. She didn't need constant validation or entertainment. We could spend time together without her requiring a detailed itinerary of my emotions. For months, life was peaceful. I'd forgotten what it felt like to not constantly watch over my shoulder. We'd go to dinner without someone filming it for Instagram, hang out with friends without someone analyzing every interaction, watch Netflix without someone asking if I found the actresses attractive. But crazy people don't just disappear when you defeat them legally. They wait, they watch, and when they think enough time has passed, they come back for a sequel nobody asked for. Everything was perfect until March of the following year. Abby and I had been dating 4 months, and it was everything a relationship should be. Easy, fun, supportive, drama-free. We spent weekends hiking with Buster, cooking dinner together, and binge-watching shows. Abby had her nursing shifts. I had my animation projects, and we both had our own friends and interests. I thought Kylie was ancient history, filed away in the lessons learned category. Hadn't heard from her since the lawsuit. Figured she'd moved on like a normal person. I was dead wrong. It started with weird incidents around Abby. Someone keyed her car in the hospital parking lot. Random vandalism in her apartment complex. Small shit that could have been teenage bullshit. At first, we didn't connect the dots. Abby's car was parked in a public lot downtown. Anyone could have keyed it. The apartment complex had teenagers who'd been caught vandalizing before, but the timing was suspicious. The incident started right after Abby and I became Facebook official. Still, correlation isn't causation, and I didn't want to be paranoid about every random crime in a city of 200,000 people. Then Abby started getting anonymous Instagram messages from throwaway accounts, warnings about me, like some discount FBI operation. He seems nice, but you don't know the real him. Ask him about his ex and why she needed therapy. You're not the first girl he's love-bombed. Abby brought it to me immediately, which is how I knew she was a keeper. No games, no accusations, just someone trying to stir up drama. Thought you should know. Probably some random psycho, I said, though I was starting to suspect otherwise. Internet's full of weirdos who get off on stirring up drama. I showed her everything, explained the whole situation. Her response was perfect. Some people really need hobbies that don't involve stalking their exes. But blocking didn't work. New accounts kept popping up, getting more detailed about our relationship, and mentioning specific dates only someone watching us would know. He took you to Rosario's on Tuesday. Same place he used to take other girls. Ask him about the guitar he never learned to play. Check how often he texts his friend Victor. It was Kylie, of course. This is definitely your ex, Abby said, reading through the latest batch. She's either watching us or has sources. I filed a police report for harassment and restraining order violation. Detective Morrison looked at the evidence and nodded like she'd seen this movie before. Restraining order violations are serious, Morrison explained. If we can prove it's her, it's automatic jail time. But social media makes it harder to trace. The detective was professional, but clearly frustrated with how technology made stalking easier to hide. Throwaway accounts, VPNs, and burner phones turned harassment into a game of digital whack-a-mole. Before they could act, Kylie made the mistake that ended everything. Abby posted a cute couple selfie from a concert on Instagram. Normal relationship content that normal people post. She lost her goddamn mind. The picture was innocent. Us smiling at a local band show. We'd tagged the venue and a few friends. Standard social media shit. Within an hour, Abby's phone was blowing up with calls from unknown numbers. Angry voicemails calling her a home-wrecking witch and threatening her job. The voicemails were unhinged. She was drunk, screaming about how Abby had stolen me and was going to pay for ruining lives. Then texts. You have no idea what you've gotten into, and he's mine and always will be, and I know where you work, witch. Abby was scared but trying to hide it. This is insane. Who does this over an ex from 2 years ago? Someone who never learned that relationships actually end, I said, already calling Detective Morrison. The next morning, Kylie showed up at Abby's hospital like Fatal Attraction with a side of premeditation. Security footage showed her sitting in the parking lot for 3 hours watching shift changes, figuring out Abby's schedule. The security guard told us later that she'd been asking questions about employee schedules, claiming to be Abby's sister, planning a surprise visit. She looked harmless enough that they didn't call the police. When Abby walked out after a long day dealing with demanding patients, Kylie was waiting by her car like a materialized nightmare. Abby was smart and started recording immediately while walking toward security. Kylie launched into her spiel about how I was dangerous and would ruin Abby's life like I'd ruined hers. You don't know him, Kylie said, blocking Abby's path to her car. He seems perfect at first, but he'll destroy you just like he destroyed me. Step away from my car, Abby said calmly, still recording. I'm trying to help you. He's a monster. When Abby tried to leave, Kylie grabbed her arm. Bad move. Abby had been doing kickboxing since college. She could probably kick my ass if she wanted to. Abby twisted out of the grip and called for security. Kylie panicked and tried to leave, but Abby had gotten her license plate and clear video of the assault. The security footage from the hospital showed everything. Kylie following Abby to her car, the confrontation, the physical contact, and Kylie's panic flight when security arrived. Police arrived with Detective Morrison personally handling it. You're under arrest for violation of a restraining order, stalking, harassment, and assault. The meltdown was nuclear. She went full victim mode in handcuffs, screaming about how I'd manipulated everyone against her, and she was just trying to protect people. He ruined my life, she screamed while being put in the police car. I lost everything because of him. Someone needs to know the truth. Even facing felony charges, it was still my fault. But it gets better. When they searched her car, they found a folder, printed screenshots of my social media, Abby's work schedule, maps to our apartments, and a notebook full of plans. Plans to expose Jake's true nature by contacting Abby's coworkers, my studio boss, friends, and family. She'd been conducting surveillance for weeks, like a discount private investigator. The notebook included gems like calling the hospital to report me as a stalker and staging confrontations at my gym. Premeditated stalking with conspiracy to commit harassment. During arraignment, Kylie's lawyer tried the she's crazy, not criminal defense. The judge wasn't buying it and expressed concern about public safety. This level of planning and surveillance suggests a calculated campaign, not impulsive behavior driven by mental illness, the judge said. Kylie got 6 months in jail, 2 years probation, mandatory therapy, community service, and a permanent restraining order covering both me and Abby. Ashley got charged as an accessory for cheering Kylie on via text throughout the stalking campaign. Pamela actually showed some sense and publicly apologized while paying for Abby's therapy. The aftermath was beautiful. Kylie's mugshot made the social media rounds with people commenting about crazy X alerts. The girl who lived for Instagram validation became a cautionary tale. Abby and I are still together, stronger than ever. going through that showed me she could handle anything without falling apart or blaming me for other people's insanity. Got a text from Pamela later apologizing and hoping I could forgive their family someday. I actually responded, "Focus on your daughter, not me." Then I blocked her again. Final score. Kylie got a criminal record, jail time, and a reputation that follows her everywhere. Me? I got a peaceful life, an amazing girlfriend, and stronger friendships. Plus, Buster approved of Abby from day one. That dog's got better judgment than most people I know. Don't negotiate with emotional terrorists, even if they're hot and know how to cry on command. Never let anyone make you choose between them and your self-respect.